Okay, hello everybody. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how to train outdoors with treats in the winter. Um, I know some of you live in pretty cold climates. Um, right now, where I'm living, we are training in cold and snow for several months of the year. And delivering treats in that situation can sometimes be a little uncomfortable on your fingers. So I'm going to show you some ways to make that easier. All right, so I'm just gonna touch briefly on the challenges associated with trying to give your dog treats during training in the wintertime, some gear that's helpful to have, and then a few techniques for delivering treats without freezing your hands off. All right, so why is it such a pain to train outside in the winter? Obviously, your fingers start to get cold or numb, especially if you're really sensitive to the cold. If you manage to get those treats dispensed, if the snow is soft, like powdery, then treats will get lost in the snow, and many dogs are super excited about sticking their noses into the snow to look for treats. And then ice can be a little bit of a hazard for us if we are even if we aren't walking dogs, but definitely if we're holding on to a leash and get pulled at all, ice can be a little problematic. All right, so stuff that's helpful to have, or at least that I like for winter training. One is there may be a different name for these, but mittens, mittens with fingers. So this is just a stock photo here on the right, but just to show you what I'm talking about, there are sort of cut off fingers, like gloves with cut off fingers, but then there's a kind of a flap to fold over your fingers to turn the thing into a mitten. Um, Ones that are like loosely knit like this, maybe out of cotton, aren't going to be terribly warm. This just happens to be the photo I could find, but you can find these in all different kinds of fabrics. If you live in a place where it doesn't get really cold, it's just a little chilly in the winter. These kind of thin, stretchy cotton gloves. I used to always use those and just deliver treats and put them through the wash frequently. And you can also, if you get those mittens without fingers, mittens with fingers and a size up from what you would need, you sometimes can wear this kind of glove under it so you get an extra level of protection and your fingers are never totally exposed. I use these hand warmers when it's like in maybe below 25 or so. And for these, the way I like to use them is I put them in the sort of little pocket thing that covers your fingers in these mittens with fingers. So I stick it all the way up in there. And that way I can flip that off if I need my fingers to deliver treats. But as soon as I'm done, can pop my fingers back in and it's much more comfortable and it can warm up a little. When it's really cold and I just don't want my hands exposed at all, I have some pretty heavy duty mittens like this. And a lot of these like ski or snow sports mittens have a zipper pocket on the outside. And I will sometimes put something like string cheese in this pocket. And here you can see it's open already. You don't want to have to fuss with trying to open a string cheese wrapper when it's freezing outside. So you can have easy access to that. And then if I'm often on snowshoes here, but if you're walking on icy or snowy surfaces, there are lots of different companies that make these traction spikes that go on your boots. And those can really be a lifesaver if you are walking on ice and you have a strong dog who might pull on the leash. It gives you a lot more traction. And finally, I'm going to show a couple of these in action, but treat tubes or pouches allow you to dispense treats to your dog without taking your hands out of your mittens or gloves. All right, so let's look at some treat delivery methods in the winter. Okay, so obviously you can deliver by hand. I'm going to pause this for a sec. So here we are out in the snow with all the dogs. If I'm going to deliver by hand, it's easier for me to take that top part of my mitten off so I can manipulate treats with my fingers. Of course, then your fingers might get cold, so just, have your hand warmers in the top of your mitten. Treat tubes and pouches give you more options for sort of how much hand covering you use. So here I wanted to show you guys how I use this, because when someone first recommended these tubes to me, I couldn't really picture what people meant. So these are camping tubes made for carrying condiments, or you could put toiletries in them maybe for camping. They're silicone. And so they have that big opening in the top, and you want something pretty thick if you're going to use this kind of tube. By the way, the link to this actual brand of tube is on our recommended products page on our website. So here I'm using a pate cat food. So you see it's pretty chunky. It's pretty thick. Well, it's not chunky, but it's thick. That you just fill the tube with it. And I'm only going to put a little bit in here because I'm just demoing. And then you fold over the top. And there's this plastic bar thingy that you can seal the top with. I hope I'm doing this correctly. This is how I normally use them. If someone has a better way to use them, please let me know. So you see, because it's so open on the top, you can put it in the dishwasher later. You see how big that opening is? So you do need something thicker. If you have something runny, it's just going to drip out. And then I usually keep, let me rewind that. This is how I carry these tubes usually. I do this with other treats sometimes too. I have tights with pockets on the side. And if you're wearing snow pants or something, these tubes aren't that small, so you need a good size pocket. But you could put it in a snow pants pocket as well. And then it's pretty easy to unscrew the top with your mittens on without taking your mittens off. And then you can just deliver directly to your dogs. If you don't want to go to that extra trouble of filling a tube, those tubes I just show you are give you a lot of flexibility. You can choose what you're going to put in them. You can reuse them. But if you'd rather not go to all that trouble, there are quite a few kinds of baby food available these days, like in these pre-filled pouches like I have in this video. So you can also use those and then just toss the pouch when you're done. The only downside is that some of these are a little bit drippy. This one actually, the contents are a little bit watery, so you might see it's kind of making a mess as Juno licks it, because it's pretty liquidy. There, some fell on the ground, fell in the snow, so Pancake is just going to eat it off the snow. But it is something you can just buy and have ready to go, which can be, Jasper took some on his nose, can be nicer than having to fill your own tube. And then always remember to wash it. Otherwise, those things get really gross. All right. Spitting treats is something that I'm always a little bit embarrassed to tell people about, but it is a way that I sometimes deliver treats to my dog when it's really cold and I really don't want my skin on my hands exposed at all. So I don't have video of this, but I'll just tell you about it. So if it's really cold, like I said, I will often have a string cheese, and you could probably use a different treat, but it's going to be something that you don't mind having in your mouth. So probably not like dog treats from the pet store. So string cheese already open, stuffed into a little pocket on my mittens, and then I'll just bite a little piece off and basically shoot it toward my dogs, spit it at them. So, that may offend some of your sensibilities, in which case I apologize. But I find this is a nice way when I really want to keep my hands warm. This works fine for my dogs. All right, treat scatter. So just grabbing treats and tossing onto the snow. This is nice because you can do it with mittens on. It doesn't require that much dexterity. So here I've got my mitten. I'm going to reach in and grab some treats out of my pocket. And then I just toss them onto the ground. And then the dogs can go get them. If you're wondering about sort of logistics of throwing treats onto the ground when you've got multiple dogs and, potential guarding. That can definitely be an issue. These dogs have practiced this quite a bit now, and here I try to make an effort to be a little more careful and to show you how I usually start out, like when Pancake first came and joined the group. I always do treat tosses that are obviously for one dog. So that one's way over to the side for Juno, way back for Jasper. And then Pancake, I sometimes have to point it out to him. He's not as good at finding stuff. So you can have trouble with guarding, but you can teach your dogs that everyone gets their own little treat scatter. So just hold on a second and you'll get it. All right. So if you have any questions about delivering treats when it's freezing cold, feel free to post those under the video. And if I see them later, I'll respond to them as soon as I can. It's just because it's winter doesn't mean we don't still need to train. There are plenty of issues still to work on, and you don't want your dog to learn that good behavior doesn't pay off in the winter. So give some of these a try. If you like any of them, I'd love to hear about it. I mostly use loose treats in the winter and just pop the top of my mitten off, toss treats or give treats, and then put the top of the mitten back on with a hand warmer if it's pretty cold out. But I know a lot of people like those tubes, and that's another good option. All right, so here's where to find us online: our blog, Instagram, YouTube, and our Facebook page and group. If you have any questions or thoughts about winter dog treat delivery and something we didn't cover or something I didn't address, please do comment, or you can email us at admin at dogkindtraining.com, and we'll be happy to try to help. All right, everybody, have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.